is your host, Alex Valgood, and this is the podcast Leap of Health. And today we have Keri Norley. She is a seller author. Her book is The Wealth Alchemist. She's also a podcaster and a transformational coach. Welcome, Keri.
Thank you for having me, Alex. I am super duper excited to be here.
Yes, thank you. And today we're going to be talking about wealth mindset and how does that relate to our health. And to start that, if you can tell us a little bit about your journey with health and how does that relate to your wealth journey now?
Holy moly, I don't even know where you want me to begin with that. That's a loaded question. My journey with health. Okay, so before we just got on, I will say to introduce everybody to this, I have been in the health industry for about 19 years now. So I started my journey just like Alex as a massage therapist. And I actually was in Sydney studying. I went over from Chicago to Sydney to study massage, and I got the ability to hang out there, shall I say, through an education permit. And I ended up, long story short, with a integrated body therapies diploma. So I did a diploma in massage, diploma in integrated body therapies. There was reflexology, there was nutrition certifications, aromatherapy certifications. Eventually, as many people on this path do, ended up in things like Reiki, crystals. I mean, if you can run a gamut, I dove down every single one of the rabbit holes when I started into the health industry. And I spent many years as a therapist, much like you, as a massage therapist. And soon after I was massaging, I ended up studying neurolinguistic programming, or it's a way to basically rewire the neurons in our brains to change thought patterns. And if I can say that, and hypnosis, actually. So that took me down a whole new rabbit warren. And as a massage therapist, I started to do questioning things differently and helping my clients differently. And all of a sudden they were like, Keri, how in heaven's name did you do that? Like, they would come to me with chronic pain, workers' comp, all these people who'd been like I'm right. The people who've seen every single therapist and they still have the problem. And when somebody comes to me as a therapist like that, as a body worker, I think this will actually answer this question really well. I really very quickly learned that it was not just in the body, right? Because if it was just in the body, then all of these amazing therapists, doctors, chiros, physios, physical therapists here in America, the gamut they'd run, they would have been better years later if it was simply a body issue, right? And so I started working with them on the mental part of it. And very quickly they would get results. And they're like, Keri, I came in here for a massage, but apparently I got more than that. And I was like, yeah, I should start charging you guys more. And so I did. And I started doing coaching. And then very quickly got hired by a personal development company that I had learned with and became telecoaching 16 years ago or 15, whatever it was. I've been doing this for a long time is what I'm saying. And so for me, my health journey, it all started back then. And like many of us, we get into the health industry because we have our own health issues. So for me, I had migraines, I had headaches, I had all sorts of problems in that way. I'm sure gut issues even then, because most things stem from the gut and we don't even realize it, right? So changing diet, nutrition, all that kind of stuff has been on my journey since then. Like, I have started way back then. And so sometimes I forget when we're in like the world that we're in right now, that I'm like, oh yeah, I've been doing this for a long time. And so that path though is like, if we are mind body, right? And so many people will now say the brain gut connection. If we are so many different dimensions, and then I would add in the quantum, the mental, the physical, the emotional, because now I would look at it and say we have 5 bodies: the mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and energetic bodies, and astral body, but we're just going to talk to 5 bodies today. And if we look at it and we look at health and healing and holistic lifestyle from all of those bodies, when we start to work them all, that's when we start to see true healing. And for me, as I have done that, the journey for me has been in that space. And so the more that we uncover these layers, the more I'd say joy, abundance, vitality, success that we create in our lives, because we're removing these like many people would say, the onion, right? The layers of the onion,
Mm-hmm.
on all these different levels to be able to really be, I'd say, come home. That's kind of how I say it. We'll come home to ourselves. And when we can be in the truest essence of ourselves, then we become more and more magnetic. And so my health journey has been very much a part of clearing out ancestral conditioning
Mm-hmm.
that has told me that who knows what, that low fat food is good, that this food is good, that food is good, right? Like the conditioning that we've had that has said we have to make things hard and suffer, that
Mm-hmm.
has said that whatever the beliefs that we've been passed down, right? And the more that we clear those out on all the levels, because even if we start to look at our physical body, the people who would come in with physical pain, it's because, like, generally speaking, and I got to the point where I am still of a firm belief that we create the manifestation in our body to learn a lesson, right? Like somebody could fall down off their bike and have a massive fall, or get into a car accident and have a massive collision and walk out totally unscraped, right? We look at them and like, oh my God, you are a miracle. How the hell did that happen? Right.
Right.
And another person could have that same exact fall and they could break a right leg. Another person could have the same exact fall and break their wrist. Another person, right? Like it depends on the person as to what happens. Now I look at that and I think, okay, so what is that there for us? What's the lesson for us
Mm-hmm.
in any of the physical ailments that we have? Because generally speaking, there is something underneath it on a metaphysical level that is asking us to look at it. And that's where the lessons are. Right. And it's like, depending on what it is to be like what we're going to start to really dive into and look at. And this is where the healing comes, because it's like, oh, I'm going to connect into my body and be like, body, what are you showing me?
Right.
What are you showing me now that I need to look at within myself on all the other levels, so that we can have healing on all levels? Because that doesn't mean that all of a sudden that the leg isn't broken. Well, the leg's broken and it still needs to heal. Right. We still have that problem. If somebody comes in and they've got a problem with frozen shoulder or whatever, as a massage therapist, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the shoulder still has a problem, but like, why have we created that? And on all levels, and how can we work to bring that into wholeness? Right. Does that answer the question? I kind of went on a whole path there.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, it's true. I think everybody comes to that conclusion. Everybody that I have interviewed, we cannot see ourselves as a, even with the physical body, like my hand is separate from my heart, or my foot is separate from my nose. I mean, they're all tied together.
Right.
And I think it is just from what you're saying, like we need to just not see, if there is a fact that sometimes we do get a broken arm or something physical, but thinking not just only on like the physicality of it, but more on like, what is this bringing to me, emotionally, mentally, energetically. So I think seeing all those sides as a oneness, and not as like, oh, my physical body is like separate from my mental body and my energetical body and all that. I think every day I see more that people are like connecting to that idea, which is amazing.
I'm glad you see it.
Yeah.
It's
I
not,
mean,
and I say it because it's not easy. I know, I mean, I've been saying this for many years, and the resistance that I have when I say it to many people is frequent, because they're like, well, but it happened to me, and how am I supposed to stop that? Or why do bad things happen? Right? Like then we question the God. They always get that one eventually, right? But
yeah.
God, why would God do that? I'm like, well, because you had a lesson to learn. Like life isn't meant to be like all like perfection. Otherwise, ultimately, if there was nothing that came to us, and this is like, I think this is a really big lesson for people. If nothing came to us for us to work through, then
Mhm.
we're this perfect, like ultimately soul in its purest form, right? If we look at like from not being in the physical body, doesn't have to deal with these problems, right? That's why we come down into the planet, into this very dense human form, right? Is to like be like, oh, I've got to feel stuff now. I've got to experience stuff now. And I've got lessons to learn. Like I chose to come here for some lessons. And you're gonna get them one way or the other. You're gonna get them. So it's just
Yeah.
how do we pay attention to them and move through them? And can we recognize them when they are like a little tap at you versus having cataclysmic things, right? And so I think sometimes if we start to look at health specifically, our bodies are speaking to us all the time.
Yeah.
right? Like a tiny little headache or a tiny little toe ache or whatever, before it's like, oh my gosh, I now have a big freaking problem,
Right.
right? It's like, if I listen then and go, oh, that's weird that I've been getting headaches every day this week. And it could be a gentle little headache, but it's like, why is that happening for me, buddy? And we start to look at that and then make the shifts and find out what it is, then it doesn't have to turn into cancer and I don't know, right? Like, and then maybe it is, maybe it's going to, because that's the lesson we have to learn. I don't know, right? Like, the only thing I know is I can't predict it. Just gotta keep listening as much as I can and do the best I can to look after my body so that hopefully it stays as healthy as possible. But who knows? Like, that's the lessons, right?
Yeah, for sure. I like
knock
to
on wood.
knock on wood. Yes, please. Yeah, but I
that's
think
anybody.
definitely it is important for us to take a different perception on when we say, like, this is evil, or this is bad, or why things are happening to me, or why I have cancer now, or why did I lost my leg. I think if you look at all those people that share their stories after the fact, after they lost the leg or they
made it through
overcame
cancer,
through cancer or whatever, it's like, you know what, without this lesson, I would not come to be my whole self.
So
And
true.
yeah, and I think that's like super important. I think our perception of, like, we want to live this life like, okay, grow up, go to school, get a job, get married, have some kids, have like an okay job to have food and house or whatever, and then grandchildren, then die or whatever. But I think that, as you were saying, we've been taught to see life in such a methodical way, like, you do this, you do that, you do, we get all these steps already set for us, and that's not how it goes. Most of the times, even if you have like all this money, you will have different challenges in life, whether it's like mental, maybe you have everything, maybe you have the best car, the best house, the best clothes, but now your challenges might be like mental or spiritual or whatever it is that it is. But I think our perception that is like super, super important.
100%.
Yeah, and talking about that and mindset, I know you do a lot of coaching and transformational coaching that you do, and financial coaching, and mindset is like a super important part when it comes to wealth and how we perceive money. How do you start changing that mindset
around money? How do we change
yes.
the mindset?
Yeah.
First, it's having awareness. Like, everything comes down to an awareness first. And for most people, if we come back to what I said before about conditioning, right? We have generational conditioning. And if we even look at it from a cellular level, our conditioning is 7 generations back, right? So something that, right? So cellularly, if we like the health podcast, right? So cellularly, we are holding on to the beliefs and energy that has passed down from your great whatever that is, grandparents.
Wow.
Right? And if we think about in all of these last 7 generations, how much feast, famine, lack, scarcity, whatever's gone on in the histories of the world, like, we hold on to all that. And so it's really interesting, because I know for me personally, I've come from a wealthy family, but I have definitely had my fair share of scarcity. And even when there's no logical reason for me to feel stressed or worried that I'm like, oh my God, am I going to be able to pay my rent or all these things? I'm like, Keri, you have the money. Why do you feel so stressed? Right? But then I come back
it's
into,
true,
7 generations and conditioning of society and And so we get to unravel these things, but first we have to figure out where it comes from. And it can be by starting with, like, especially if you're new to this space, like, just start to think about, what did your parents tell you about money growing up? Like, it's really that simple, right? So some of us would have been like, oh, money doesn't grow on trees. That's a common thing. Or money from church. How many people went to church? And it's like, money's the root of all evil. Or
Right.
Many of these, right? Like these,
Mhm.
I'd say conditioned frameworks that have come, like just start to think to yourself, like, what were the things that my parents said to me, or that my religion said to me, or that my teachers said to me that got so ingrained at a young age, or we can't afford it, or these things that are now ultimately in your cells, right? In your
Mhm.
body, living there and driving your beliefs and driving your actions, right? So
Mhm.
unconsciously driving our actions, so that we keep recreating, oh, money is evil. So I'm going to see outside of myself all of the times, and people are going to keep reflecting to me that I'm going to just see bad people with money, and money is evil,
Mhm.
right? Or I'm just going to see that there isn't enough, and my bank account never has enough, and I'm going to keep seeing that because that's what I am believing to be true, and so I will keep imagining it. And so I think the piece to add here is that part of the work I do in the world is it's in the quantum realms, it's quantum physics. And when we start to talk about that, like there is an infinite abundance around us, and whatever we see, we create. So if we are
Yeah.
seeing lack and scarcity, like if that is our physical reality, then that's what we're thinking, and that's what we're creating, because we have decided that's what's going to happen. So the more that we can then go, actually, what if I got to live in an abundant life? What would it look like? What would I be seeing right now? And we start to expand, but first it starts with understanding where it's coming from in the first place, right? So even me just saying like any of those beliefs, right? Like look inside yourself, because they might not be the true ones for you. It's like whatever's your belief, but then
Mhm.
actually look inside and be like, when did someone tell me that, and is it true? Like, is that actually true? No, money is not the root of all evil. People are.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true.
The
Yeah.
person that is holding the money, right? Really good. It's why I do what I do, because the more people that I know that I can help, that are good people, good-hearted people that want to do good things in the world with
Mhm.
money, will have money do better things in the world, right? It's not the money itself. It's not currency itself. It's what the person is doing with it, or the person who's holding it. And the person who's holding it, it's like you're only going to amplify your goodness or your badness, because that's all it is. It's a currency, right? And so when we can start to look at like, where did that even come from? Is it true? And then go, okay, well, if it's not true, because it's not, any of those BS beliefs you're telling yourself are not true, you may think they're true because that's been your reality, right? But they're not actually true. And because somebody else, let's think about this. Does a billionaire think that the root of all evil is bad, or is money, right? Like, no.
I don't.
Do they think that there's not enough money on the planet? No. So it's not true for them. So if it's not true for them, and so many of them, not all of them, but many people who millionaires, billionaires, right? They started with
Yeah.
nothing,
Yeah.
right? And they were in the same place. So if they can do it, so can everybody else.
Mhm.
Right. And so we start to look at these awarenesses, and then we can open up our realization to go, that's actually not true. So if it's not true, then what do I want to believe instead? And then start filtering for that. And then all of a sudden you'll start to see, it's like, for example, the best way I can say this is, if you've never seen, if you start looking for cars, like you're going to go buy a new car,
Mhm.
and you start like, oh, I want to go and see what kind of cars I have, and I want to go find these 4-wheel drives. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I just saw a 4Runner, but I've never seen 4Runners before on the road. Like that's a crazy one, because most people don't see a 4Runner so far, but like whatever it is. And it's crazy, right? Because there are times that I'm like, I've gone and done this, and I'm like, oh, I've never really actually seen that car very much before. And then all of a sudden they're everywhere,
Right.
right? Because we were
Mhm.
never filtering for it. We were never looking to see that car. And now I'm looking to see that car, and it's like, how did I miss this car before? Because it's everywhere. And it's the same
Yeah.
thing with our money stuff. It's like, I was looking for the lack, the scarcity, the whatever the thing. And now I'm like, wait a minute, but it could be really freaking abundant. And then you look around, and all of a sudden these amazing people in your world are coming in, and there's more money showing up, and money drops in from this place. And then all of a sudden you have more clients coming in, and the clients that you have coming in are more abundant and keep paying you, and they buy the package, and you're like, and then you prove to yourself, oh, wait a minute, actually, this is a belief that I want to take, and this is true. And then it becomes so true. I mean, this is how we start to, one of the things I talk about is our financial minimums. So some people have heard of like glass ceilings. There's a book called The Big Leap. That talks about this, like glass ceilings. And so most people, well, not all people at some level, are going to have a glass ceiling. And it could be that your glass ceiling is $30,000 a year, $100,000 a year, $300,000 a year, whatever it is, right? Like there's no It's wherever you're at. There's no right or wrong to this. It's just where it is. And you'll know this by how much money do you make every year consistently? No matter what you do, how much money are you making every year consistently? And that's going to pretty much be your glass ceiling, right?
Oh, okay.
So then, and it's a glass because it's what we put on ourselves. It's totally clear because it's like, it actually doesn't exist, right? We put that on ourselves. And the same thing with minimum. So we have minimums. And I know I've spoken to people who are like, I totally happily live in my, right? You live in my car, right? You know, the people who it's like, I will do anything for this business. I'm a visionary. I'm going to stay the course. And it means that I end up in a car. I will sleep in my car. I don't care. Right. And there are people like that in this world. And I'm like, good on ya. It ain't going to be me. That is not my minimum. My minimum is a roof over my head.
Right. Yes.
Right. Right. Like I will never let myself, I'm not going to say never, don't ever, never, never, never. Right. But like, I have no intention of letting myself ever get to the point where I'm living on a street. I will find a different way. Right. And so, or living in a car, that's not the minimum I have. Like my energy field is like, I don't even know what you're talking about. That doesn't make sense to me. No freaking way. And it's no judgment to the other people at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like good on you. If like, that's the dream that you have and you're willing to go that way, but it's the minimum. Right.
Yes.
And so if we raise our minimum, then all of a sudden you're going to be like, now this is true. Only ever making at least $5, $10, $20, $30,000 a month, whatever it is, I will never go below it because this is the minimum I need to make in order to pay my bills, have me be happy,
Mm-hmm.
healthy, and wise, meet this thing, invest, go on holidays, whatever it is.
Wow.
Right.
That was some really good, great point. I've never thought about that. In fact, now that I probably did put it myself, but there was a few years back, I was going through this like financial, thing going on with me. And it just happened that I had to sleep in my car because I didn't have nowhere to go.
Right.
And it was not a long time, but I was there in the car. And then after the short period of time that I slept in the car, it was something that, I'll never forget. I was like, I cannot ever, ever. This was the worst idea ever. I cannot ever let myself freaking stay in my car. This is ridiculous. I'm smart. I speak 2 languages. I could do freaking 100 million things. I mean, come on. So you were totally right.
Right. And then you create a new minimum. You're like, I'm never doing this again. So my minimum will never be this again. And
Yes.
now, like, have you ever gone back to sleeping in your car again?
Never. No, I mean,
like you roll your eyes. I love it. Right. You roll your eyes like that would never. And I want it like, that's how true it is now. I will not let myself have that. And because you create that energetic boundary, the world's going to be like, okay, well, I've raised it to here. And so this is how quantum leaps actually happen. Because when you start to get this, you're like, well, then why would I only let myself have this be my minimum?
Yeah.
Right. Like, because then we move into, oftentimes, I have a friend who talks about this. We move into comfort.
Mm-hmm.
We get into the comfort zone, but the comfort zone isn't always comfortable. The comfort zone can still be like this looping, like, fuck, where's the money going to come from for rent? Fuck, where's the money going to come from for rent? Right. But it still comes in, it still comes in. And like, or it comes in and you know that it's coming consistently, but there's not extra to be like, I still want to go on that holiday. I want to buy this amazing pair of shoes that I like, that I want to go and get a massage, that I want to, right. And then our minimum is still not actually what we want, but at least I've got a roof over my head.
Right.
Right. And so then the next thing will be like, okay, now I'm comfortable here. And I talk about this actually in like, there's a cycle, right? We get comfortable and then eventually we have to push ourselves out of that cycle. I call it like the wealth cycle. Sorry, everybody, for banging on a microphone. I'm so excited with my hands here. You can't hear it you can't see it on the podcast, but I am moving my hands a lot.
Watch YouTube for this.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Go ahead and watch. So then it moves from there. Like when you get to this comfort zone part, right? Like even you've seen it. I'm going to go, like you just said, you're investing for writing a book, you're doing the podcast. All of this then takes money and energy and time to invest in yourself to be able to go to that next level. Right. And so then we come back to, it can feel a little bit like we've come back to like, oh shoot, it's a little bit on the scarcity side because I've now had to invest my money. Right. And then we go and we hustle and we get it all sorted. And then this minimum becomes the minimum. And you're like, yes, I'm comfortable here. I got this going. I've got this in money coming in. And then it gets comfortable again. And then you're like, oh, but I could have more. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's how we keep moving through our money patterns in many ways, because we get comfortable and then we're like, actually, I could have more. Why am I? And it's a question to ask, like, why do I settle is the word that's coming to me, right? Like, why would I settle for like, okay, I can get by. Right. When I could be like, it's the same energy. And I will say this, it is the same energy to go to the next level. It actually probably is less. Right? When you were living in your car, did it take a lot of energy to be in your car?
No, I was just there.
Like it takes, like, to me, that's like, it's like the stress of it, right? What
Yeah,
am I going to do? How am I
sure.
going to pay my bills? Like, oh my God, like it's really stressful, right? So the energy goes, I'm going to say I would be stressed.
Yeah.
Right?
No, definitely. Yes.
Right. So that energy, instead of it going into the stress of how am I going to do this? What I'm going to do? It's like, oh, I get to go write a book. I get to create a podcast. And the same thing, like when I watch people leap, I would say I always say this with my clients, like it doesn't take more energy to do what you're doing, to create the results you're creating. Right.
Got it.
I still just have to show up and do my social media. If I'm on a podcast here, I still have to do my podcast. I still have to talk to people. I still have to do clients. I still have to do my programs. The difference is how many people can I get in for the same effort? How much money can I make for the same effort?
Right.
There's people who are making millions and millions. They're probably, and I know some of them are actually working less than they did.
Yeah.
Less than they did when they were struggling living in a car, or just above living in a car. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like living in the space of like, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this on the hamster wheel? Because that takes a lot of energy.
Right.
Time, money. I mean, not money, time and mental space, right? That mental space that it takes.
It's almost like, I just got actually that point of most of the people are going to be like super stressed with no money. They're going to have like all this crazy energy, whatever that energy is, and, be worry about food, where they're going to live, how they're going to pay things. But they can use the same energy on actually something more productive that's going to eventually get them out of the hole where they are. But yeah, like I never really thought
the same thing, right?
About that. Yeah.
It's like, where's our mental mind taking us? When you ask about the mental aspect, right? Where's our mental mind taking us? And I know for me, this last year and a half, speaking of health stuff, like this last year and a half, I have been working on overcoming bipolar tendencies. I was never diagnosed, but I will tell you, when I took all the tests and when I went in and actually started working with therapy around this, they would have ticked every, yes, Keri is highly on this spectrum of things, right? And so I spent this last year and a half overcoming a lot of it, and it still can be quite challenging for me. It's definitely way better than it was last year, or my whole life, shall I say. But one of the things I definitely know that I have had is a really hard symptom. And I'm going to say this is, I say this because we're talking about health here, and it's not true for everybody.
Right.
Is I have really a tendency to loop patterns. And it is true for a lot of people. But like, I know when I look at my husband, he's like, there is no looping in his head, really. Like it comes in, it goes out. He's like, I don't overthink things. I'm like, I want to understand your brain. Can I please like implant it into mine?
I want to meet your husband because I am on the same road with you.
Loop, right?
And
you get stuck on like
all day long.
Right? And you just get stuck on this thing that's going around in your head. And the thing that I have really worked on this year, because I didn't realize how much I was looping in a way that was totally unserving me until I started doing this work. Like I knew because I've been doing mental work for a long time, but then it's like, oh, I can just tell myself something new. And like, I wasn't really aware of how different that was as an experience for some people, right? It's not necessarily for everybody. And that is true. Right. And when I started to have this awareness, I was like, oh, what are you looping on, Keri? what are you actually looping on? Is it helping you? Or can you put some positive looping thoughts into your brain?
Right. Right.
Right. And I still have it, especially like I'm still doing mental health stuff, but like I'll start a new thought and then it'll go to the, oh God, stay away from that old thought that didn't help. New thought. And even with hypnosis, all that kind of stuff, right? Like we can still come back to this looping thing. And so that's the question of like, where are we putting our energy? Is it looping in a way that's serving us? And if we don't have that awareness because we're not paying attention to our beliefs, guaranteed there are negative loops happening in your brain, even if it's not as bad as it is if you are not in a mentally health place, right? Like you are still thinking about things at some level, I'm sure, your mind. And if it's not serving you and we're letting ourselves tell ourselves unconsciously, and then we act from that place, then we're recreating that unconscious thought that isn't helpful day in and day out. And then that's what we're seeing in reality.
Yeah, for sure. I think, as you said, some people do have it a little bit more intense than others, but we tend, as humans, the way the brain works is that we tend to loop those negative beliefs more than our positive beliefs, just like our memories. We could have amazing times all day long, but then our brain tends to remember those bad memories more than the positives. So it's definitely being on that state of awareness. I mean, it is what it is. We're gonna have,
We're
negative
human.
thoughts. Yeah, I mean, we go through life every day.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I've talked to mentors
yeah,
of mine that are 7 figures that have amazing, have it all life, right?
yeah,
It doesn't mean that this goes away.
right,
And I think this is a really important thing to say. It doesn't mean that it goes away. It doesn't mean that the self-sabotaging behaviors don't ever show up again. It doesn't mean that I think they're much less as we start to tame this, to be honest,
yeah,
because then we create better habits. But it doesn't mean that, like, I guess it's more the imposter syndrome is actually what I want to say here. So imposter syndrome is like, I'm not good enough. Oh my God, how could I possibly be the person? Why do I have, oh my God, why would they listen to me? Right? That thing that comes in. Why should I be the one to have a podcast? Why should I write a book? Why is someone going to come to me? Why should I be the one messaging you? Oh my God, how could I possibly be the millionaire? I'm not good enough for that. Right? And there's something in your brain that's telling you not to. That doesn't end. I don't know one person on this planet who will tell me that that ends.
right.
It's just another level. It's another devil that we get to move through and have awareness that it's like, actually, you can shut up. Right? Like you just say, like, I don't need to listen to you anymore. Like, that's not serving me to listen to you. Of course I get to be the one, because I would not have, and I think this is a really important piece of wealth growth, is like when we get these seeds or these ideas that pop into us that are for us, like that's for you. That doesn't mean that the person next to you, your husband, your kid, your neighbor, your best friend, they didn't get that idea with you. Maybe they did, but like then you're going to do it probably together. But pretty rare that 2 people at the same time, unless you are on that path together, are going to get the exact same idea, the exact same time, and need to both go implement it. No, it's for you.
Yeah.
Right. And so the more that we actually listen to those things and then not let the imposter syndrome or the mental mind say to us, you're crazy, which we may be. Some of the things I have been asked to do, I'm like, are you kidding? Nope. Okay, that sounds like the craziest idea in the world. Well, let's go, right? And but the more that we actually listen and the more that we shut up that mental mind that says that's insane, then the more that we live our purpose, and the more that we're on our path and our purpose, the more that I call it divine alignment. Like, if I'm doing my divine purpose on this planet, why would I not be rewarded abundantly?
Right, right.
Like, my soul is here for a reason, and God's source universe wants me to be abundant as I live my purpose. Thank you so much for coming down as a soul and living your purpose. And thank you so much for moving through, because this is ultimately what has to happen. We get to move through all of the freaking blockages and conditioning and stupidity of what we put ourselves through as humans, right? When we come onto the planet, we forget everything that we infinitely know. And then we get to move through that to remember, I'm home. This is who I am. This is who I get to be. And then staying on that path, regardless of what any other human being on this planet says, because you do, and you have this divine connection, which you are divine. So I'm just connected to myself and I listen to these things. Again, coming back to our body, coming back to the signs from universe, wherever you find them, hear them, see them. And then the more that we listen, the more universe gives them to us.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like, oh, you're listening. I'm going to reward you. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's the breadcrumb. And the more that we divert from this path of listening, the less universe is going to talk to us, because they're like, well, you're not listening. Right. And so then you think in human ego form that you know better, which we don't. And then you go over here on this path, and this path leads you off stray. And to me, that's ultimately when I see people get sick, unwell, where things break down, where stuff goes wrong. Because you're like, you're not happy because you're like, I'm not on my path. Like, the universe doesn't want you to be happy there. It wants you to move back over to the place that you're supposed to be. Listen. Yeah. And then when you come into this path again, it's like, divine union, divine alignment. Of course I get to be looked after abundantly. Of course I get to live in a healthy whole body. Of course I get to have infinite amounts of resources. Of course.
Yeah. Just like what our friend Laura said once, that Tesla said, we get too hung up on, I want a piece of the pie, because we think there's just one pie. There's like infinite pies out there. Just, get out there and do your thing, and change the mindset of lack of everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I was talking to one of my mentors yesterday, and we were talking about how there's a lot of people like you, me, and a bunch of people that we know, that we just have project and then another project, and we keep doing things. And then there's the question, how do you do all these things? You have a work 8 to 5, and you do a podcast, and you're a therapist, and you teach salsa lessons, and where do you get the time from? And my answer was like, well, I feel like the more you do, the more you like almost expand the time to do more. Now that you're
expansion,
now that you're running yourself in, but you have all these creative mindset or whatever it is, or the wanting to do more, that you actually can. So I think definitely the mindset right there, it's like super important for everyone. Some people might be stuck in a job where they might be like, well, this is kind of like all I have. But if you think in reality, if any day of your life you're wondering like, oh, it would have been nice to go for vacation somewhere, or it would have been nice to go to the park, maybe you should definitely pay attention to what your thoughts and dreams are telling you, to actually expand more from what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Now.
As you say that, like a really great question, if that's where you're at, is you're listening to this, because it's like all of us have been there. This is not, and I say all of the things I've said without shame, judgment, guilt, because every single human, for the most humans at some level have been through some part of this, right? Even if they're infinitely abundant already, they have been through all sorts of stuff, right? And so the question that you can ask yourself, and even as I was saying, even before, as we're moving up and expanding, it's like, it's not that all of a sudden we still have, like, we're still going to bang our head against an upper limiting glass ceiling, right? Because we created this, and it's like, oh, well, now I need to I'm going to do my book and podcast. Okay, well, where's that money going to come from? So it's just another like, how, and right. And so many people at that point will not do it because they're like, I don't have the resources. Right? I don't have the resources to do my book. I don't have the resources to do my podcast. Instead of asking the question, what if I did? What if I did? Well, what if I did have the resources, or where are they? Just ask, like, where are the resources going to come from? I want to go on a holiday. How many people have said that? And like, I swear, I know many who are like, all of a sudden it's like, I want to go on a holiday and I don't have the money. And then like they win their work getaway for a night, and they get a hotel room at some place. Right. And you're like, thank you. Thank you. Right. I think we even limit ourselves that way, is to like, I have to then go get the money. No, you have to ask for what you want. The universe will deliver. It doesn't, like, stop thinking. And this is a huge limitation for people when it comes to money and manifestation stuff. Stop thinking you know better or how it's going to show up. And then thinking, like, as you said it, like, we all think we're going to start from where we are, and I'm going to go do a massage business, and this is how it's going to look, and I'm going to piece. And it's supposed to be really stinking linear. It doesn't really ever happen in a really linear way, right? And we think we know how, but we don't. And so the more that we as humans get in our own way, thinking that we know better than what's already here for us, the more that we limit ourselves. And so if we think that it's like, it has to come from this place, I want to do this thing and it has to come because I start my business. It has to come because I have my job. It has to come because blah, 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 blah. I need to go somehow find another way to make all this money to be able to go have this happen. Or universe, how is it going to show up that I get to do this?
Yeah.
I mean, we have friends. I actually have a holiday. We're doing plant medicine. I'm about to go do, I've done it before. Have you heard of Kambo?
No.
Kambo is frog medicine. It's from the Amazon.
Oh, okay.
And they take what's the word? Poisonous, like they don't get hurt. It's like wipe off their backs. And then
Okay.
this poisonous stuff that comes off these frogs, and
Right.
they put it onto your body, and it's toxic. So you purge, and it's quite a healing medicine, for very physical reasons and other as well. And I did it a
Wow.
few years ago. It was profound in my life. And a bunch of my girlfriends and I are going. We all were like, oh, a bunch of girlfriends were like, let's do it. I want to do it. And I was like, I'm in, let's go. And so we're planning this retreat, and all of a sudden, one of the women who signed on to come couldn't come. Something came up for her and she couldn't make it. And so for her, she was like, instead of leaving this to you guys and all of a sudden, you now have extra money to pay, I'm still going to pay the money and I'm going to gift this to somebody. Like there was a handful of other people who wanted to come with us, but couldn't afford to come. I'm going to say, quote unquote, thought they couldn't afford to come.
Yeah.
Now, one of those people just got gifted a holiday to do Kambo.
That is awesome.
Right. And so who would have known when we started the journey that somebody was going to get this free, amazing week away with us? And we're all like, yeah, so exciting. Thank you so much. Like, we're so blessed. Like, thank you for doing this. Thank you for somebody else getting to have it. We all feel so amazing about it. And these are the miracles that happen when we just trust and surrender that we can be looked after. And when we open, instead of collapsing in on ourselves and thinking, I'm trapped, I can't do this, there's no way, because that's where our mind will often go to when it's not programmed. And like, this is one of the biggest things you can do is program your mind to start, again, it's like I keep saying it, filtering out, like, how can I see what I want to see? Where is it? Let me look for it. Let me see it. Show me how this is going to happen for me. And the more that we trust and believe it to be the case, the more that it will show up for us. I often tell people, if you've never done this before, if you've never experienced this way of opening ourselves to receive things, I suggest that you start with something really small, really simple, really basic. Like, I'm going to set the intention to see a butterfly today. Show me a butterfly. Show me whatever the thing is for you. Show me a car, a specific car. Show me right? And then open your mind to see it. I'm going to say I've yet to. I don't know that I've ever given this exercise to anyone who's actually consciously gone out and done it and had it not work. They haven't told me if it didn't. And so then, like, the thing you have to think about again is it's not how it shows up, because if you start and think here, I'm going to go like, well, there's no freaking way in the middle of winter I'm going to see a butterfly. Well, then you won't see a butterfly. But could a butterfly show up on the back of a bus? Could a butterfly show up on a magazine? Could a butterfly show up that you're sitting and talking on a Zoom call and the person you're with is wearing butterfly earrings or butterfly t-shirt or butterfly bandana, right? Yeah. Like, of course it can show up.
There's the possibility.
Stop trying to limit ourselves to like how we think we know better. Right. And the more that you can challenge yourselves to find these things, or open your mind to see them, then the more that you will then expand out, because then you believe it. You're like, oh my God, it did work. And you're not attached to whether a butterfly shows up or not. You don't care. I don't care if a butterfly shows up, but you do care if $10,000 shows up because you need to pay your bills. You're really freaking attached to that. So the more that we attach to that, we're like, I strangle it. And then I think I need to know how, and I don't believe it as much because I couldn't believe that even a butterfly would show up. Right. But then you see that the butterfly shows up every time. So just like that dang butterfly showing up every time I asked for that butterfly to show up, then so does the $100 that I need, the $10,000 that I need, the $1,000 that I need, the course, the holiday, right. Yeah. You just expect it. You start to expect that, of course, I get to do whatever I want to do. And it's always going to be here for me. And of course, I'm always infinitely looked after. And the more belief that we have in that, that's how we then again bring this minimum up too. Right. Because of course, like, why would why would I ever live in a car again?
Seriously. I mean,
Seriously.
the possibilities, and I think it's, I mean, it is that it's our how we confine ourselves into this little place, and we're not seeing all the possibilities, everything that's out there for us, and how we just run these like pity party in our minds all the time. And I see it a lot of happening in like families that have kids or whatever, and they're always like stressed out about life, and they're not seeing, it's kind of like, it's already sucks to be poor.
It does.
But it sucks more when you're actually, you know, being in this loop of like, well, I can't do this because I have to pay this other thing, or I cannot go take this class because I have 38, or whatever it is. It's like, instead of being in that state of mind of like, I'm poor and I can't do that, and being in that state of mind of lack of things, um, acknowledge, yes, you might not be financially, you know, good right now, but just acknowledging all those possibilities that, you know, if you, I don't know, if you're really good at what you're doing right now, you might get a raise. Or, if you do whatever it is, you might get something else. I think it's just that mindset that definitely define everybody from, getting all these things that are available for us and being in this little hole and not seeing anything else.
Yes. I think it's also like, I'll add in here when you say that, because I think when we're stuck in the scarcity loop, and we're having problems financially and we're struggling, because, I get that too.
Yeah.
Oftentimes what will happen in that, and this is what I was saying to you, it's like, start with little things that you can actually prove to yourself right with, right? Because if you go, I need $10,000 to do this, and it doesn't show up, then you don't believe it. And then you beat yourself up over it, or you say, see, look, it doesn't freaking work. And then you come back into this self-perpetuating loop that keeps you there. And I don't know anybody. I don't personally know anybody who's gone from broke to like millionaire overnight. Unless they won the lottery. But then generally speaking, and this is what I teach, I teach around holding on to wealth, because generally speaking, the people who win the lottery, they end up bankrupt within a year, not just like without the money, but bankrupt. Right?
They were not ready to receive that.
They were not ready to receive it. Right. And so that's about the only way I've seen people, or from an inheritance. And again, a lot of people with inheritance, the same problem happens. But when we are gradually increasing, right? And so I think a lot of people want to try and leap, even in our businesses, right? We want to leap from starting to going to 10K months right away, or starting to going to, I'm going to have a 7-figure business, or being like, oh my God, I'm struggling. And then they're like, but these people have 7-figure businesses out there, or I want to have 30K months or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but there's like, you have to build your belief muscle. And again, we keep raising these minimums, and we keep pushing through the maximums. And until we gradually do that, it's like our nervous system, our body, our mental state, everything has to adjust at each level. Right. And that's why I always say to people, start small, right? Start with, if you're in that place, start with looking for a butterfly. Prove to yourself, right? Prove to yourself that you can do this.
Yeah.
And then you will believe it. And so then, because right now, if that's where you're at and you say, I want 10 grand or 20 grand or 50 grand, you don't believe it. There's no way you believe that that's going to happen. You're doubting yourself, you're questioning it. And so what's the universe receiving? Your doubt and your questions. But like, the more that I do this, the more that I'm like, of course, that's how it gets to be. Thank you, universe. Show me how it's going to be. You tell me.
Yeah.
Right. You show it to me. Bring it on. Bring them to me. I don't have to know where they are. I don't have to know where my clients are. I don't have to know how you're going to get them to me, but I'm going to, and I'd say this is the other piece, like the devotion that it takes to this journey, I am going to act on. And this is the other piece that other people will often mess up in this process, is they don't take the actions, because the actions are scary.
What will you say to those people that, because I know we're like talking about money, and some people might say, well, I'm not hung up on money. I just want to be happy or like do good things, I don't care about money. What would you say to that? How does those two things come together? Because like people will say, well, I don't know if you heard that. Those people
Oh,
that
yes. It makes me cringe. And it's funny because it's not that you don't care about money. You think you don't care about money. You want the
right.
outcome of the money.
Yes.
Right. And by saying I don't care about it, it's like if we look at money as a relationship and you look at your partner and you're like, I don't care about you, but I want love from you.
Right.
Is that person going to give you love? Right. I don't care about you. You can fuck off, but I really want the experience. Right. So this is the conflict that you're creating in the universe because you're like, I don't. And it's not that my husband's an I don't care about money person. Like, God love you. And so I always have to help frame things for him that it's not about the money. Right. So no, I get that the actual dollar figure is not like whether you are multimillionaire or whether you're not, right? It's not the dollar figure that matters to you. Right. And a lot of people, like, ultimately, if I just say I'm going to create 10K months, right? If you don't know what that 10K is going to create for you, it won't come because it's just a number. Right. Like there isn't actually an attachment to it. But if you go, okay, so with 10K, that means that I can get a staff member, a VA that's going to be able to produce my podcast and do my social media. That means that I can go away for a weekend every month. That means that my kid can go into the ballet classes that they want. All of a sudden, you really freaking want that, don't you? Because you want that holiday, you want the ballet classes, you want the assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But all of that at this point in time, because we have not we have not moved past the actual exchange of currency at some level,
Mm-hmm.
that requires money.
That's true.
Right. And so you can sit here and say, I don't care about money, but all you're doing is really like confusing the issue. So you can, even if if the dollar figure does not matter to you, then start to look at, and even if it does, look at where are you going to be putting this money, because you'll work towards that. I really want to be able to give this to my daughter. I really want, every part of my body wants that VA, virtual assistant, for those of you who don't know what that means.
Right.
Right. And so then all of a sudden it's like, yes. And then you get to put the money in. And then the next thing you know, I'm now paying my virtual. And this is how I started. Like, for an example, I started my virtual assistant the first time when my son was born 12 years ago, because I was coaching and at the time, we did not have online calendars like we do now. So people would come and call me, they message me, email me, and they'd be like, I need to change my appointment. And I'd be like, oh, it's 2:00 in the morning that I was reading this, or it was 7:00 in the morning that I was freaking breastfeeding. And anyone who's had a baby knows you're mentally not necessarily going to remember. I don't know. And then things would get messy. So I was like, right, I'm hiring a VA to literally manage my calendar. And so I think it was $3 an hour to hire her. I think I paid $10 a week for her to help me manage this. Right. So if you drink coffee, that's like saying I'm going to give up 3 coffees a week to be able to have a VA. Right. And then you start to learn. And then all of a sudden you have the money for this person. And I never not had the money for her. It's like, right, you are now a mandatory person in my life. But it's not like you all of a sudden have to leap and go, I'm now going to go pay $5,000 a month to have a person. Right. And so then, we incrementally upgrade these things. Right. But it starts by saying that it's not about not caring about money. It's about looking at, like, what does this provide for me?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then deciding that is something that you desire enough that you are going to allow it to show up for your life. And then from there, so then from my first 3 hours a week, she became more and more and more. Right. Like I had her doing more and more and more work. And the more that I had her do, the more that, of course, it was supporting me, and the money was always there for her.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Does that answer that question for you?
Yes. And on the point, what do you think about when people says like, oh, in order to have all this money, you have to hustle? What will you say about hustle and having money? Because I think a lot of people, and it goes back to what you were saying, we're so confined to these ideas of like, what our parents tell us, like, if you want money, you have to work really hard for it. And then now we're talking about the hustle. Like, you have to hustle all this and work day and night if you want to have so much money or whatever, being a millionaire or whatever it is. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it can be done always, right? I have a mentor who is currently 6 figures a month.
Mhm.
I've watched her scale from about her minimum was 50K a month to now the last like 4 months of 6-figure months. I will tell you, she does less now, and she wasn't already not doing very much then. She does less now. I literally know she runs maybe 1 call a week for the groups that she has. She outsources everything else. Like, I mean, even to the point now where she's written emails because she's been in the industry for so long. She's got emails that have been written in the past that she just redoes. I'm like, I know because I've been around her enough to be like, sometimes I'm like, oh, I've seen that post. But the new people who are in her field have not. So it doesn't matter. I'm not her target market for that. I've already done that course. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So she literally, she's like, I'm looking for things to do. Because then she's bored, but she's like, she has nothing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And she's making 6 figures a month.
Yeah.
Right. We do not need to hustle more. We need to listen to deeply, like what I've been saying, to what our path is in front of us. It does not mean that when you're starting a business, especially if you're starting a business, that when you first start, there is a bit of a hustle that goes on, right? Because we are the jack of all trades. She now has 6 figures, or even at that point, she was running 50K months. She had a team that she could hire because she had the money to do that. Before that, she was doing the things, writing the emails, sending them out, doing the social media, It takes more time and energy. And I look at my clients and I say, when I work with them, I expect them not to do anything more, but to make more. And sometimes I pull things out from their lives, right? And like my mantra right now is, the more that I look after my body, the more money I make. The more that I look after my body, the more money I make. Because often what will happen is we let ourselves go when the hustle happens, right? And then all of a sudden, that's where we get sick, run down, burnt out, right? And that's not a good place to do business from, to do anything from, right? And then energetically, we become needy, we're exhausted, and no one wants to be in that energy. I don't want to be around somebody who's freaking wiped out, exhausted. You don't either. None of us do, right? I mean, we are, but like, that's not the mentor that I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to go and learn how to burn myself out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there is a point of hustle, but at the same time, like, I would say, don't hustle to the point where you are not looking after yourself. Right. Like, even you right now, you just said it, working, massaging, salsa lessons, yada, yada. But like, does it feel amazing for you? Do you feel alive and vibrant? Sometimes. Right. And like I said, I think sometimes there is this bridging place.
Yeah.
Right. Where there's like a little bit of, but then at the same time, like, if it's getting to the place where you're exhausted and run down, then look, like, what can be removed off of my plate? Like, we don't want to be coming from that space.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
And the more that we allow for it, it's truly, this is the belief, right? This is why we start with a butterfly. I swear everybody's going to be off looking for butterflies. It doesn't have to be a butterfly, people. It's whatever you decide.
I'm gonna make shirts.
Butterfly. Mine is feathers. Like, for me, I find feathers all over the place, and I know I'm on the right path. It's one of the things I always look for. But like, we start with a butterfly, and then we start to believe in magic.
Yeah.
Right. Because really, what we're talking about when you move from hustle into flow is really, there's a lot of magic that happens, and you can't explain it. Like, I can't explain how certain things have happened in my life. Like, it doesn't make any logical sense when you start to have miracles and magic happen. I can't understand how certain people showed up at the right amount of at the perfect time to say yes to client work, whatever. Like, I can't explain how so many things have happened in my life, right? And if you actually look at your life and you go back and you look for proof of this, I can just about guarantee you will find there has been magic that has happened in your life that you're like, I really have no idea how that success happened, even if it's a little something, right? And so then we start to believe in this magic piece, bit by bit by bit, and then you can move out of hustle, excuse me, into this flow state, because you believe that I can do, and my mantra, like, if I look after my body more, then I make more money, right? And I think this is the other thing to do too, like, and it's a bit of a, I'm going to kind of drop this in here, but I don't know. I mean, I know we're running out of time too. One of my favorite profiling tools is human design. Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard of it. I've never done it. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to say to you, because you and I are sitting here talking.
Yes. Yes.
But I suggest that everybody here goes. And if you feel like running down this rabbit hole, because you will learn a lot about your energetic blueprint, and this will explain a lot about hustle and flow, right? Because human design is literally your energetic blueprint. Like you will learn how you are designed to move through life. And there are certain people in this world, 70% of the world are manifesting generators and generators. By the way, if you want to go to human design, you go and take a free test just about anywhere. I'm not anywhere, sorry. Like go type in human design free test. They have one on Jovian Archives, Jovian archives, I think. And then Human Design America. I know both of those sites have free tests. You need to know your birth date and your birth time and your birthplace, because there's an astrological component to this. They combine astrology, I Ching, and Kabbalah to create this experience. It's a very beautiful energetic blueprint. And so when you go and look at it, there's 70% of the population that are these manifesting generators that are the doers of the world. And they are designed to be like the busy bees and do. So if you were to ask them to
stop
the hustle,
yeah,
they would be like, I can't sit still to do that.
It
would be against every part of their body. I'll say this, I'll respond to that in a second. It would be against every part of their energetic blueprint to actually not be doing things for the day. And they will not able to fall asleep at night. Like this will happen commonly. They won't fall asleep at night, or they'll struggle to get to bed because they haven't exerted their energy.
Oh, okay.
Right. So like they are the worker bees that have to get stuff done. So if I were to say to you, please only work 2 hours a day, and at any level, right? It doesn't mean that they have to be working like busy like this, right? Like, but like they have to get the energy out. So like one of my husband, even if he's still a massage therapist, actually. He does body work anyway. He doesn't really do massage the way that people think of it. He fixes people's bodies. But like when he's not, like he'll be home working in the garden, and he'll spend 5 hours or something in a garden to get his physical energy out. Like I have never seen a day go by that man does not do something to move energy out of his body, because he can't just sit still. His mom is the same way. I laugh at her. I'm like, I don't know how you move so much. Right. So those are those people. Then for me, and one of my sons is a manifesting generator, and he's like, it's constant. Like there's no stopping. He's climbing. He's everywhere. He doesn't nap anymore. Like he's 9, but like, even when he's tired, like it won't happen. You barely see it, because he's like, I gotta go. And the energy's got to get out of body. And then what will happen at the end of the day is they crash. They're like, I'm done. Good night. And it'll just be like within minutes. And I'll watch my husband. You can see his face like glaze over. I'm like, oh, there he goes. There's no more left in him. Right. And I used to want to push past that, because I was like, but keep talking to me. Keep being with me. He's like, I'm done. So now when he says I'm done, I'm like, oh, okay, you're done. Good night. Not personal. You're done. You've literally exerted all of your energy for the day. There's the other 3 people. There's manifestors, projectors, and reflectors. And they make up the other 30% without getting too far into all of this stuff. But we are not designed with infinite amounts of energy like that. I say we because I'm a manifestor. And so like in our marriage, even I watch, like we know how to tidy a house. Like he'll go through and he can tidy like crazy. And I'll be like, just come in and do these things behind or whatever. Like if we need to do a quick tidy, he's like, I'm like, I don't know how you do it so fast. Right. In that same hour, I'd get through, like, I did the dishes. Right.
Wow.
I don't move as fast. When I was building my website, when I was launching my book last year, I remember like looking at my mentors before we launched, and I had email funnels, I had website things to do. Like we had so much to do the week before the launch. And my mentors are like, you are nuts to think you can get this done. I was like, watch my generator husband do this. Watch, he's a manifesting generator. I'm like, just watch us do this. And I'm telling you, everybody was in shock that it got done, but it would not have gotten done by me, because I cannot go that fast. And I look at him, I'm like, how the heck did you do this? Like that would have taken me 3 months. Right. But the generator, they're like, go. As a manifestor, I'm like this slower, like I need more energy. And I have a cap to how many hours I can actually like work every day. I need to have time to sit and stare at space. I need to hug a tree. I need to go for gentle walks. Even things like if I do, and I've done this, like when I love the concept of like HIIT training, high intensity training or F45s or that kind of thing. I've never been into CrossFit, but like that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I would end up crashing every time, inevitably. I'd come home and I'd need to sleep. I loved when I was there, but I was so tired afterwards. My body is like, you cannot produce the energy that way. It exhausts you. So I don't do it anymore. There's plenty of other ways that I can exercise, right, without draining myself. And so you learn. And so this is what I was saying to you. It's like from that place, we can learn like what's our best way of doing things. So if I go and hustle, it's a bad idea. And I'm less magical, right? My husband now looks at me and he's like, Keri, stop. What are you doing? Put it all down. Like, go outside and hug a tree. Go for a walk. I'm like, but I have. He's like, yes, but it's not going to work. And you're going to kill the energy. Stop working, And so, and it's true. The more that I push through that, the less magical that I am. And so this is where I think it's a long-winded answer to that, but I think it's a really powerful way to understand your own blueprint, to know, like, am I the person that needs to actually generate the energy, or do I really only have 4 hours a day? And then how do I use those 4 hours a day the most productively? So for example, like with you, since you have a job, right? How am I going to use these other couple hours a day the most productively? I always say, if you want something done, give it to a mom who's got a newborn, because that mom is like, I've got this baby, but I got 2 hours to get in. I got it 2 hours from their nap. You'd be amazed at what a mom can get done in that 2 hours. Speaking of quantum expanding time, like I was so productive those 2 hours. I was like, right, get it in, what are the most important things that I need to get done? And so often in our hustle, we create busyness, right? Like we create busyness that we think that needs to be done, but it's like, actually, if you look at it and you go, what do I really need to do? What's the thing that's going to move my needle further? So if we're in the hustle, what's the thing that's really going to move the needle further? And look at the rest of it. Is it busyness? Or do I really need to be doing this stuff? Because we create a lot of busyness too, because of the conditioning that we need to be busy or we need to be productive to actually be worthy of making money.
Yeah, for sure. I think seeing in a different way of like, definitely if you're a new entrepreneur, you do have to like do a lot of things, and you will keep doing a lot of things for a little bit until you move to the next step. But it's not a set of life where you want to be hustling for your whole life, because then that will be not really productive of the time, energy, and the wealth that you could be actually making. So,
and also, like, if we start to look at, like, if you're even if you're in this entrepreneur startup place and you don't have resources to outsource things, then it's like, what's the most important thing? Don't go on to every social media platform. Don't do that to yourself. Pick one. Decide that you're going to do one thing. Do I need to do stories and the feed? Right? Like, how much pressure are you putting yourself to produce? And especially when you look at yourself compared to the people who are making 6 figures a month, 7 figures, like, I know we have mentors that are making that. They're not doing their social media.
They have somebody
doing that for them. Right. So we see all this content come out. Don't try and produce like them. Right. Like, sure. They have tons of things in their stories and tons of things in their feed and like, they're not doing that.
For sure.
Right? So, like, take a breath and go, what is the most necessary thing that I can do that's going to be the most beneficial thing to move the needle forward? And sometimes it's the most uncomfortable thing, which is why you're not doing it. Right? It could be that, like, you actually know 5 people that would actually take you up on your offer, but you're not willing to reach out to them. So instead, I'm going to busy myself and do a whole ton of content for social media. And I'm going to end up exhausted. I'm going to run around and I'm going to do this and I'm going to learn that and I'm going to figure this out, when all you had to do is pick up the phone and be like, hey, I got this cool offer. I'm totally, or message them. Like, I totally think this is for you.
Yeah, for sure. I think sometimes the people that are like hustling, they take that as an excuse for not moving to their next level of whatever abilities they have. They're like, no, I'm hustling here. This, I gotta do this. But they're not like seeing beyond that they can have like way more things and create more wealth for themselves or whatever it is that they're working for, hustling for. And I think if you're hustling out there, just know that that shouldn't be it, and work that you're hustling for something and not just that's going to be your life.
Right. What's the end picture? Like, what are you actually
I
working
think
for?
that's
And
important.
And the other thing about that, I love that you said that. The other thing about that is like the way that we actually up level, right? In this way that we move from the hustle or from this, like this place of like, how am I going to do this, is actually to start doing it, right? Like it's never going to change unless you step into this next, like, I sometimes don't like the next level version of yourself, but it's like the next version of yourself, right? Like if I were to remove the restrictions that I've placed on myself that are here currently in my reality, and because this is often what happens is people miss exactly what you just said, like visioning, like, so if I want to vision out into the future and in a year's time, I've got consistent clients showing up and I have totally consistent 10K, 20K, 30K months, whatever it is, 5K months, if that's where you're at, right? Because a 5K for a lot of people, 5K months. And this is the other thing, like know your money numbers, right? Like what's the number that you actually need to live? And if it's 5K months, like don't go stretching for 20K months. Just go like, how can I get 5K months consistently? Right? Like, what's that look like? Awesome. Now I've got that happening. Move to the next one, right? Then we've proven to ourselves, this is my new minimum. I got this. Right. And then what does it look like for you? Again, because the number is just a number. What does it look like for you that you're doing that? Okay, well, if I'm making 10K months, then I'm getting a massage every month. Awesome. Okay. So start getting a massage. And it's going to push you past your comfort zone to start doing those things. It's going to mean that I'm working less. Good. Start working less. Because until you actually do those things, you will continue to hustle and end up in this grind and never move forward because you continue to do the same behaviors that you're doing now. And if you're doing the same behaviors you're doing now, it doesn't change. Right. And it's really uncomfortable. On my podcast, I have an episode where I interview my book writing, the person I did my book writing training with and publishing with. And in the podcast, his name is Dave Thompson. If you go over, my podcast is called The Wealth Alchemist, and you can go over and listen to it. His name is Dave Thompson. It's like,
let's check it out.
I don't remember which episode, but go check it out. You'll find it somewhere in the 20s, I think. But he actually talks about because on my podcast, I often ask like some of their stuff around like what they've had to overcome in order to create the success that they've created. And one of the things he was saying was he remembers when there's times when he was like, I had the last, this is the devotion that you get to listening to divine guidance. I had the last money in my account and I was guided to go have a massage. I keep saying massage. In America, we say massage. So I was guided to go and get this, and it was the last money. And I was like, are you kidding? Like I have to pay rent tomorrow. And you want, something like that. I have to pay a bill tomorrow and you want me to go get a massage? Like, are you crazy? And so in true dedication and devotion to the alignment of the divine and himself, he went and got a massage. While he was getting a massage, a client booked in and paid, I can't remember exactly the story, but like thousands of dollar package to work with him. And he was like, and there it is, right? When we surrender in and we truly actually start to live into this, because this is how it works. Like if we don't actually live into the future vision of ourselves, we'll never create it. And again, we will never create that new minimum, right? We'll never create that new minimum because we don't have the courage to go out and try it in the first place. And that's also why I was saying like incremental, right? So maybe it's not that you're going to get a massage every week or every month, but it's like, go get one.
Yeah.
And then in a quarter, go get another one. And then I guarantee you that every quarter, somehow you'll have the money to do it. And then you'll be like, okay, this is comfortable now. I can do this. I know I have the money to do this every quarter. So now I'm going to get it every month. I can do this now. Yeah. Right. And then eventually it gets to be whatever you want it to be. And whether it's massage or cleaners or whatever, the food, the organic food, right? Maybe it's organic food and you want to switch over to be able to have organic food because that's another big upgrade for people, right? for moving from conventional eating, especially when we're talking about health journeys, to organic food. And organic food is definitely more expensive. And so it's like, maybe that you don't get all your food organic, but you can look at the dirty 10 or the dirty 8, whatever it is, dirty 12, whatever it is, right?
Dirty 15.
Dirty 15. There you go. I'm like, there's dirty many of them.
Very dirty.
There's dirty many things, but you just look at that. Okay. So if I have to make a choice, I'm not going to buy the organic bananas because they've got skin on them, but I'm going to go and buy the organic potato or berries because berries take so much toxicity. So I want to make sure that that's the place that I spend my extra. And then I start going, okay, that's where I start. I'm just going to get organic berries. I'm not going to get all organic. Can I stretch my budget an extra $1 or $2 a week to get the berries that are organic versus the non-organic? Right. And so these are the ways that we start to incrementally upgrade. And then it doesn't all of a sudden throw in our bodies, our nervous system out going, I can't handle this. Right.
Yeah. I think, definitely little by little, and just move up onto whatever it's your goal, basically. Obviously, we're not telling you become a millionaire if you don't want to.
No, not at all.
But whatever it is that you want to do, definitely work on steps gradually, and know where your goal is, and know that, definitely the hustle is not the life to live.
No. And if you don't start taking those steps, you will just stay there because you didn't actually take the action. Like the world, it's not like all of a sudden one day you're going to wake up and go, oh, now I can have all of that.
Right. No. Exactly. Yeah.
Like, oh, one day, yes, now I'm just going to be standing here in all of my dreams. It's like you wake up and you're like, one day you're like, oh my God. I mean, this is what's happened for me many times, right? Because again, it's like these incremental, right? You might set all these goals. And I mean, I journal and I write out what I want in my life. And then all of a sudden one day I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, I did it. It's all here. Everything I've been journaling about is all here. Holy cow, that's wicked. But it's not because I was like, one day I went out and changed everything.
Exactly. You've been working a lot to have everything that you have now and all the experience.
Right.
For sure. Well, Keri, this has been amazing conversation. I know everybody's gonna love this conversation. It's a little bit long, but it's definitely worth it. And if anyone wants to look you up or have some one-on-one sessions with you or find your book, where can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook. I am Keri Kaplan Norley, and I spell it because I don't spell it. I mean, Keri's always spelled weird. Not weird. There's many ways of spelling Keri. So I'm Keri Kaplan, Kaplan, Norley, Norley on Facebook. And it's Keri Norley 1 / Keri Norley 1, facebook.com / Keri Norley 1. Or on Instagram, I'm Keri Norley, KeriNorley. My website, KeriNorley.com. And I'd say that's for the most part where you're going to have the ease of, I have an Amazon. You can go on Amazon and grab my book. And then my book is called, I actually have it here for those of us who are watching on video. Sorry for noises. The New Wealth, Magnetise Abundance, Hold Your Wealth and Leave a Legacy. It is an international best-selling book. It is phenomenal. If you're wanting to know anything more about what we have just talked about, this book is amazing. And of course, my podcast, The Wealth Alchemist, you can find that on any of the podcast players. And there are so many amazing interviews on there around money, wealth, success, and crypto. I love talking crypto now. So if anyone's interested in learning, I know Alex has been following the crypto story too. Any of you who are interested in learning about crypto, I really take it to a really basic level, and I really teach you why it's important to learn about this now. Educate yourself, you guys. This is coming. I actually put a post into the group today, to the Facebook group. My Facebook group is called The New Wealth. For now, Facebook, Alex knows, Facebook and I have not been friends over the last few weeks. They did not like me talking about crypto. So anyway, so it's like, for me, this space is critical. And in the group today, I put a post up that we actually have, Germany is there's some really new big institutionalization. So banks are starting to allow their people to invest into crypto from the institutions. Nice. We're starting to see much more adoption into it. And so if you are hearing this message right now and you are like, what the heck is it? I'm kind of curious. I don't know what this is. I highly recommend that you take a head out of a sand with all the love in the world and you start to educate yourself on it, because this is coming. This is here for us. It is not some crazy scammy thing. And the more that you can educate yourself now, the more you can take advantage of it, but also the more that you don't
it's
get
not
scammed.
too late.
It's, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like
Just
it
for
is not
everybody
too late.
to know. Yes,
It
exactly.
is so the most perfect time for you to start learning this.
Exactly. And I will be putting all her information on the show notes. So if you want to check her out, you can go ahead and do that. And if you need to look me up, you can also go to alexvalgood.com. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, everywhere. I will put also my information there. Thank you, everyone, for listening today. This has been amazing. So hopefully you make notes and all that. Thank you, and God bless. Thanks.
Thanks, Alex.